Hello, today my goal is to read the first chapter of my book, The Englewood Medium, Shaken but Not Stirred. This is a cozy mystery set in modern day with a psychologist who has an anonymous stalker. And we're going to see what Haley's up to. There's a lot of twists and turns in this book. Now, I have the book here, but I'm going to be reading it on screen because the lighting in this room is not conducive to reading. And if I put the lighting on, there goes my face. White as a sheet of paper. So let's get started. Chapter 1. Haley Myers stepped in front of the burly moving man before he reached the outside stairs to her second floor apartment. She firmly grasped the antique Martha Washington sewing cabinet in his hands and took it from him. I'll take care of this. It was 2 feet wide and lightweight. She had picked it up plenty of times. Given to Haley by her grandmother, the table was more than 100 years old. Even though it was shrink wrapped, she was still afraid of getting it scratched. Need some help with that? Dale Jasper called as he lightly descended the steps. Her new downstairs neighbor had a full head of gray hair, but still managed to seem like a kid. Maybe it was that ironic glint in his blue eyes. Haley leaned back a little as she hitched the small table higher to clear the bottom step. I'm okay, thanks. The men retreated to the truck. Her shrink-wrapped sofa had their full attention. Haley had rented the upstairs of a wide 2-story house with an apartment on each level. Each unit had its own veranda, a Southern style unusual in northern Pennsylvania. At the landing, where the stairs turned left, the toe of Haley's sneaker caught on the step. She lurched forward. Her hands flew out to grab the railing. The table bounced down the stairs and landed in a heap. One of the legs had broken off and poked through the ripped plastic. One side of the table had a deep gash. Unable to move, Haley sat on a step and stared down at the disaster. What was she thinking? For a long moment, she couldn't breathe. Her sister, Linda Blankenship, appeared at the top of the stairs. She gasped, Haley, what did you do? Haley shook her head. She had no words. Grandma's table, Linda burst out as she brushed past Haley. She knelt down for a closer look, then glared up at her sister. What a crock! How could you be so stupid? Sighing heavily, Haley joined her. Both men were blonde and 40-something with a classy aura of career women. Linda was a medical doctor and Haley a psychologist. That's where their similarities ended. Linda had a taut body and edgy vibe of an athlete, which she was. Haley liked to say she loved her soft curves, which she did. Dylan called out, I know a guy who can fix that. I'll text you his number. As the two movers positioned the sofa on the electric lift, Dalen grabbed 2 boxes from the sidewalk and headed up the stairs. Haley slowly shook her head. I guess that takes care of that, she said. Muttering under her breath, Linda picked up the broken table leg. Haley bent down to carefully gather the plastic around the fragments of wood so none would fall out. Working with the ease of people who had been together forever, they carefully placed everything in the trunk of Haley's car and headed back inside. Anyone care for a drink? Haley asked when they reached the front door. She looked into the fridge. I've got cherry, raspberry, and orange electrolyte drinks, iced tea, cola. She glanced at her sister. Or wine. Linda grimaced and let out a deep sigh. Too early, sad to say. Haley tried to give Linda's outburst a pass. With a busy medical practice and 3 kids, Dr. Linda was always exhausted and on her last nerve. Haley passed around beverage bottles, then looked for a place to perch. Everything was wrapped in plastic. Finally, she sat on the floor with her back against the living room wall and took a long drink of peach tea. A minute later, the sofa made its way into the room and she was back on her feet, giving directions. For the past 4 years, Haley had lived in a 5-bedroom house share across town. Professional women came and went almost monthly. They were cordial to each other, and the arrangement worked. One day, two of her housemates had a disagreement over the fridge that soon launched into a full out feud. Neither of them was willing to end it by either apologizing or leaving. Finally, Haley had enough and started looking for another place. With a small trust fund left to her by her father, as well as income from her counseling practice, she could well afford her own apartment. She was in a house share because she didn't want to live alone. Now, living alone was her top priority. When she told her friends at the Healing Circle that she was looking for an apartment, Sonia Summers told her this upstairs unit was under renovations and would soon be available. Fresh and gleaming, 1 bedroom and 1 bath, minutes from her office, Haley couldn't ask for better. The only drawback was the stairs, but Dalen seemed eager to help, so that worked out too. Linda's husband, Scott, and Dalen pushed furniture around to Haley's satisfaction. Unpacking photos, Linda turned one toward Haley. It was their parents' wedding photo. They were both gone now. Where do you want this one? How about a grouping in the hall? Haley said. Set the photos in a row along the wall, and I'll put them up later. Linda lifted a stack of gold frames. The top picture showed Haley's son at his college graduation, squinting into the sun next to Haley and her daughter, the older of the two. An hour later, Dalen paused next to Haley. He waited while she pressed her house key across a line of packing tape and pulled the top box open. I've got to run. If you need anything, text me. She smiled. I appreciate the help, Dalen. Thank you. He put his 2 fingers to his temple in a loose salute and left. As he strode past the wide living room window, Linda whispered to Haley, Wow, I'd say you lucked out. Haley looked doubtful. Sonia told me he's a retired Marine officer. He's probably used to barking orders. Not my type at all. Haley's phone chirped. She glanced at it. What's that? Linda asked. It's a notice from seniorsmeetup.com. Eli Loomis, the guy I've been dating, just messaged me. Come on, let me see him. Haley touched the screen a few times and showed her an image of a shirtless, bald guy with a giant gut. He was holding up a fish. Linda's lips twisted. And you'll take that instead of the hunk right under your feet? There's more to think about than looks, Haley said, like loyalty. Linda's mouth tightened. Before she could reply, Scott came out of the bathroom. Haley slid her phone into the back pocket of her jeans. Are you ready? He asked Linda. He had a perfect jawline and an effortless swoosh to the front lock of his dark hair. Linda put her hand on her stomach and groaned. I'm starving. Let's get some supper. She grabbed her purse off the table. We'll be back, she told Haley, and they headed out the door. As they passed her bare front window, they waved at her. Suddenly feeling exposed, Haley decided her next task was to cover that window with a curtain. She didn't want to sleep in here with it wide open like that. Digging through the jumble in one corner of the living room, she found the bundle of curtain rods. Her electric screwdriver lay on the table, and the stepladder was in the kitchen. She'd have this done before they came back. On the second screw, she hit something behind the wall board. No matter how hard she pressed, the screw spun in place. Sweating and frustrated, she imagined the wasted time and expense of hiring a handyman for such a small task. When it came to things like this, Scott was useless. She wouldn't even ask him. Asking Dalen for help for something this trivial would be humiliating. She was not a helpless female. She'd rather hire someone. To put in a screw? Come on. Suddenly, she felt her father's warmth around her. She had a burst of strength in her right shoulder, and the screw went straight in. She felt Dad's satisfied smile, like he used to smile when one of his endless projects came out perfect. Whoa! What just happened? Holding the screwdriver, she came down the ladder, took 2 steps back, and sat in a chair. That was easy. Her dad's mellow voice sounded clear and strong. She gasped and jerked around to see him leaning against the wall, grinning at her. He was younger, like he looked when she was in grade school, 30 years ago. She stared at him, her mind completely blank. She must be going crazy. Even crazier, she wasn't the least bit scared. Sorry to startle you, he said. I didn't know how to do this without causing a scene. You're wearing your Penn State shirt, she gasped. He looked down. It's my favorite. But do ghosts have closets? I prefer disembodied spirit, he said. Then he threw his head back and laughed, exactly the way he used to. Exactly the sound she had missed so much these past 4 years. She had an urge to jump up and hug him, but she stayed rooted in the chair. He took a seat on the sofa. Finally, you moved near enough to an electrical substation, and I can pull enough energy to show myself to you. Where were you in the meantime? I've always been with you and your sister, but not really with you. It's complicated. Let's just say I'm glad to be here. What about Linda? Have you shown yourself to her? He shook his head. She doesn't believe. I don't want to scare her into a nervous breakdown. And you're not scaring me? Haley felt heat rising in her throat. Dad, I just about passed out. But you didn't. Haley, my girl, you didn't. At that moment, Linda appeared in the front window carrying brown paper bags. Haley turned to return her wave. When she looked back at the sofa, Dad was gone. Linda bustled in. Scott dropped me off and took dinner to the kids. They had 3 children, all currently in middle school. As she unpacked food cartons, Linda glanced at Haley, still seated in the chair. What's going on? I just saw Dad. Linda's eyes narrowed. Instantly, she transformed from a helpful sister into the family physician. He was right there, Haley nodded toward the sofa, talking to me. I'm giving you a referral to a neurologist, Linda said, pulling a pen light from the side pocket of her purse. How long has this been going on? Do you have double vision? Dizziness? She bent over Haley, shining the light into her eyes. Haley pulled away and put up her hand. I'm serious, Linda said. You should have this checked. No, I don't. I must have dozed off, and it was a dream. Has this happened before? Linda demanded. No. Haley stood to end the conversation. What did you bring? Let's eat. The subject dropped, and Haley didn't pick it up again. After they finished eating shrimp fried rice, Linda helped put up the living room curtain, and they called it a night. As far as Haley was concerned, once she had emptied her suitcase and located the coffee pot, she could take her time in unpacking the rest. Monday morning, Haley left a few minutes early for the office. She had a therapy practice at Alexian Acupuncture on State Street, the Central Avenue in Englewood. That meant she rented a room and shared a receptionist with several other practitioners. She was on her own for building her client base. Over the years, she had developed a referral network of medical doctors, coaches, and energy healing practitioners who handed out her cards. Most of her clients came from them. A high school science teacher for 10 years, Haley completed her first master's degree in education and her second master's degree in psychology. She passed her boards on the first try and opened a therapy practice shortly afterward. That was 6 years ago. Digging into her leather shoulder bag to locate her chirping phone, she stopped outside her front door and locked it. She finally found the phone and glanced at the screen. A tiny red heart blinked in the top left corner. Someone on seniorsmeetup.com wanted to meet her. Your boyfriend texting you? A deep voice called from below her porch railing. Dalen peered up at her with a teasing grin. She pressed her lips together to squelch the smile filling her mouth. And that is your business, why? She asked. She carefully planted her foot on the first step down. Good morning to you, too. He went back to his blue pickup truck and opened the tailgate. He wore a red buffalo plaid jacket. Dalen was the brother-in-law of Martin and Sonia Summers, who owned this property, although Haley wasn't clear whether he was related to Martin or Sonia. Haley's pumps clicked on the wooden steps. Her black skirt felt tight around her knees. In her car, she paused to take a quick peek at her new prospect on Seniors Meetup. Someone calling himself Yo My Mama. Online dating had become like a gambling game to her, tantalizing and addictive. You never knew when you'd hit a triple and win big, or something like that. So far, she couldn't get lucky, but she kept trying. Why not? Yo, my mama happened to be a guy on a motorcycle with a blue bandana tied around his head and a bleary look in his eye. She put her phone down and turned the key in the ignition. Nothing happened. What? She tried again. Nothing. How could that be? The car was working fine last night. She'd come home from her date around 8 o'clock. If you could call it a date, actually, it was more like a breakup dinner followed by a quick escape. She rolled down her window and called to Dalen. Can I ask you a favor? He came around the side of the truck. What's the trouble? My car's dead. You don't say. Came closer. Try it again so I can hear what happens. She turned the key. Silence. I just did, she said. It doesn't make a sound. Can you pop the hood? He asked. She bit back a smart answer and found the button under the dashboard. 2 minutes later, he came to her window. It's the battery. She didn't believe him. I just replaced it last winter. I have jumper cables in my truck. 10 minutes and you'll be on your way. She tapped her fingers on the soft steering cover. A dead battery could mean a lot of hidden problems. She'd have to get a mechanic to check it out. Since she became single, at the first sign of car trouble, she didn't let one day pass before taking her car to the shop. When she told Dalen she wanted to drop her car off, he said, I'll follow you and take you to your office. He disappeared under the hood. Try it now, he called. The engine roared to life. So did the headlights. Dalen removed the cables and dropped the hood into place. I know I didn't leave the lights on, Haley told him. He nodded. They were off when I came in around 9 o'clock. He looked at his blackened hands. Give me a minute to wash up and I'll be right with you. Englewood, Pennsylvania, population 8,486, had 3 auto repair shops. One of them was just down the street, so dropping off the car was a quick process. Going most places in Englewood was a quick process. Haley and Dalen barely spoke during her time in his truck. In less than 10 minutes, he pulled into the lot behind her office building. He gave her a quick nod as she closed the door and his truck disappeared down the street. Haley headed into the back door of her office. In less than 10 minutes, Flo Yeager would be coming through the door. A single mom in her mid-30s, Flo became a client after a disastrous year completely dismantled her life. First, she lost her 16-year-old son, Freddie, to a terminal kidney disease, followed by a nasty divorce and custody battle over Fleta, Freddie's twin sister. Flo and her ex ended up with joint custody. In their case, the fight never stopped. Sometimes Fleta came with her mother for sessions, and once Fleta had come alone. Poor kid, she's been through a rough time too. Once inside the building, Haley drew up when she spotted Flo sitting on a love seat in the waiting room. Her sleek black hair hung half out of its clip. Her makeup was sliding off from crying. Haley hurried to her. She had heavy dark shadows under her swollen eyes. When she caught sight of Haley, she gasped, Paulie, and lost her breath in a sob. Paulie was Flo's boyfriend. Haley had met him twice when he dropped Flo off for her appointment. He usually left Flo in the waiting room, then strolled down State Street while she had her session. Haley reached for her. Let's get you settled on the sofa, and I'll make you some tea, okay? Pressing a wad of tissues to her face, Flo nodded. 20 minutes went by before Flo calmed down enough to talk. Haley pulled out her secret recipe for calming a meltdown. Lotion-filled tissues, a pink furry throw, and hot tea. With Flo quietly sipping tea, Haley kept her body language relaxed in her wingback chair. She had her yellow legal pad on her lap. What started this whole thing? She asked gently. Yesterday afternoon, I told him it was over, Flo murmured. For real this time. She drew in a shaky breath. I told him he couldn't come around my place anymore. How did he take that? Flo brushed at her right cheek and left a wet streak. Even with mascara over half her face, she still had that magic something women spent thousands of dollars to achieve and still fall short of. Her voice wavered. First, he screamed at me, then he started crying, and then he peeled out of the cul-de-sac in his truck. She rubbed above her left eyebrow. A couple of my neighbors came to their windows. She winced and more tears flowed. Humiliating. Flo's hectic relationship with Polly Hammond had taken up most of their sessions for the past 6 months. They made a cute couple, both of them around 5'2", with olive complexions and dark hair like two peas in a pod. Polly adored Flo, but they couldn't seem to resolve their conflicts. Over the past 6 months, Flo had broken up with him 3 or 4 times. Then a few days later, she'd take him back. After all this lovely, sensitive woman had been through, Haley wished so much that Flo would end the chaos. However, Flo was in the driver's seat. It was her life. Haley could only offer suggestions and support. Flo had to do the rest. Snuggled into a corner of the sofa, Flo sipped tea. It's for real this time, Haley. I need to get settled down and start a new life where I can be who I want to be. More tears. I love Paulie. I really love him, but he's not good for me. He keeps everything stirred up and I can't get stabilized. Haley nodded. You're a strong woman, Flo. You're smart enough to know what's good for you, and you have the courage to follow through. Flo's mouth pulled sideways. I feel like a bawling kindergartner. She yanked 3 tissues from the box next to her and made a wide stripe across her face, as though wiping away her grief. When she sat back, she had a look of quiet resolve where the pain had been before. I have to do this. It's my life, and I'm taking it back. I have to, for Fleeta's sake. Haley nodded. Here. From her desk drawer, she pulled a round black stone with the word power engraved on it. I picked this up when I was at a store last year for a time like this. Flo took the stone from her and rolled it in her hand, looking at it from every angle, feeling its smooth surface. That's who you are, Flo. Powerful. Haley set her notebook aside. Are you ready to rest back and close your eyes? Placing her cup of coffee on the table, Flo nodded. For the next 20 minutes, Haley led her through a calming and clearing meditation. When the timer on Haley's desk sounded, Flo collected her wadded tissues and dropped them into the tiny waste bin nearby. She said, next week I'm going to visit my brother in Bayard. I'll have to miss that session and pick up in 2 weeks. Haley made the correction to her online calendar. She pulled a book from her shelf. Here's something for you to read in the meantime. Flo opened the front cover, showing Haley's business card taped inside. I'll get it back to you when I come in next time, she said. Haley stood, signaling the end of the session. Email me if you need me, she said. Thank you, Haley. I don't know what I'd do without you. Smiling gently, Haley watched until she exited the back door, then opened her laptop to write up her notes. Her next client was due to arrive in 10 minutes, another woman with an abusive, controlling husband. If not for her own calming and clearing process, Haley would never have lasted this long as a counselor. So much pain. And that's the end of chapter 1. The book is available on Amazon.com. I'll put it in the comments below. Thank you so much. See you next time.